also one of them. We as a Marxists know that every year or every period, capitalism always has its crisis, and so is Thailand. From Tom Yam Goong crisis in 1997, which caused a lot of workers to go unemployed, and uh, the final financial crash in 2008, hamburger crisis, which led to uh, global crisis. Why capitalism always has this crisis all over the years? I can explain shortly in three parts. Within the capitalism, the finance and banking system is always fluctuating and not stable. Second, with the intensive competition among capitalists is always linked to falling rates of profits. And three, the free market policy always try to reduce the role of the government in managing the market. But the capitalist class always want the government to intervene when they want to be subsidized, when they're going to go back, be bankrupt. Okay. So recently, not long, 3 years ago, uh, COVID pandemic, right, hit us very big and caused another economic crisis. The capital class use these advantages to reduce the work, reduce salary and benefits, changing employment conditions, and sometimes trying to close down the factories and reduce the work, the employees. But in Thailand, the government never take any responsibility, and the government left many burdens on the poor themselves. In the World Employment and Social Outlook Trends 2023 report that in 2023, the number of unemployed people around the world will increase by another 3 million, causing the cumulative numbers of unemployed people to reach the level of 208.3 million people. For the Thai government, the government presented the information in the second quarter of 2023. The number of employed people was 39 million. But the second quarter of 2023, there was only an average of 400. There was more 430,000 unemployed people. If you look at the small numbers or percentage, the unemployment rate is 1.1% and decreased to, increased the unemployment rate increased to 1.4%. For the government, for Thai government, overall, this seems to be okay and no signs of concern. But however, in reality, we see that many workers are forced to accept lower pay, lower quality work, and more precarious work. Their social securities have been cut or delayed, and so sometimes they had to being underemployed to avoid losing their jobs. But again, overall, in this economic situation, capitalists still want to recover the profits. This leads again another class war for the capitalists. Many workers, especially in formal sectors, women, young people, had to face a more difficult situation. Meanwhile, capitalists gain enormous profits. We can see that many large companies shows positive operating results even during COVID, such as Bangkok Bank, reporting a net profit for the first quarter of 2023. Their profit was 10,129 million baht. But those profits came from the interest from the borrowers. They increased the interest for lending money, which means that the majority of Thai people who already indebted were even poorer. And another reason that the bank increased the interest because they want to prevent further inflation. But again, it still caused the majority to get poorer. And the other thing is that during this time, almost to the post-COVID economy, the capitalists find it more easier and profitable to buy other assets, creating monopolies such as the communication industry, True Company, DTAC, and 3DD now combined together as one company. Or even the company for producing Coke, Coca-Cola in Thailand, they share the market into two companies. First one is Hatip, operating and sell Coca-Cola only in the southern part, and the rest was of the Thai Namtip company. And then the post-COVID economic crisis. After the COVID pandemic, the capitalists, there need to be the economic recovery, right? After we suffer a lot during the COVID due to the stoppage of supply chain and the let's say, good. Oh, it's okay. Okay, sorry. So during this time after COVID, the capitalist class is again trying to recover from the crisis. But the challenge is that the crisis, the economic crisis after COVID-19 can only be achieved, or the capitalists can only be achieved by more and more exploiting the working class. So they try to increase the rate of exploitation and profit. There were more subcontractors, more suppressing wages, reducing the role of the government more, and leaving people unemployed. However, at the same time, capitalist class after the COVID, many of them were going to go bankrupt. However, they again trying to get the government involved uh, by allow many large business sectors to get the debt rehabilitation by get the government to help write off the loans and debts legally. Okay. Now, with the economic crisis in Thailand comes at the same time the political crisis. Since the era of Thaksin Shinawatra, that he won the election in 1990, made many promises which is beneficial to poor people to come true, which gained him a popularity. But many of his policies use the neoliberal policies, such as trying to privatize many of the public industries, such as uh, water, electricity, uh, healthcare. But it was again he was faced with the struggle from those unions. Okay. But even though he tried to help the poor without taxing the rich, the Thai ruling class still wanted more and more share because in the past they were used to getting a lot of benefits from not uh, implementing uh, policies for the poor. So they staged a coup in 2006 to protect the interests of the rich. And also, again, they staged a coup in 2014. Okay. After the coup, the military dictatorship trying to draft the had tried to draft the constitution of 2017. The constitution was written to allow the succession of power and give more power to independent organizations, but independent from the people, not from the state, and give more power to the courts to help maintain the status quo. Even the senators, the whole house of senators were all appointed. Not one of them was elected according to the constitution, which means that the status quo, the stability of the military dictatorship was tightly put together, even stronger. In the latest election, the Move Forward Party, even though they are very progressive, but they are liberal reformists, they won the election. But however, due to the constitution that limits the voices of the people, they were unable to form a government. So uh, the appointed senators, the pro-military parties that hold very unironically hold the majority of seats in the parliament, but the majority of the voices vote for the move forward party. They still they could not form a government. Uh, so the mass movement trying to take the matter to the street to protest against the senators and other pro-military political parties that prevent them from forming a government and uh, enabling any reforms. But still, at the end, the state of struggle is declining. The direction of the movement is to wait for the next election. Uh, both elections in recently in to 2000, 2019 and 2023 have proved that the ruling class will not allow the people to have a real political power even through their own constitution that they have drafted. And the mainstream parties and the mainstream politicians always come from the capitalist class or the elites. So they will be ready to betray the voices of the people in the majority, join hand in hand with the military. In case of Thai or Thai in the past, which was a party that Thaksin helped organize, also joined hand in hand with the military to form up a government to implement their uh, policies for the poor. But uh, time to time, the mass movement hadn't learned that the Thai party always try to keep the movement stagnant. Since the righteous movement that Thaksin and Thai leadership trying to keep the movement stagnant and then lose all of the power from the people. Even now, the Thai and Move Forward Party doesn't take the mass power into their own hands. In summary, the masses have been politically aware and have been fighting for a long time since the coup of 2006 until the youth movement for democracy in the past 4 3 years. But each fight, they don't revise any lessons and any political mistake from the past. And also, there were no organization to centralize the power of the mass. So every time they try to fight, they were starting from the zero again and again. Uh, and the mistake of the movement of the students is that they did not relate it to the workers or the economic and economic plus political demands such as freedom to unionize, minimum wages. They only call for the kind of liberal political demands such as rights to constitution, rights to elect the senators, a right to elect the courts, but they never use the existing unions to help them fight for this democratic struggle. Uh, yes. All right. Okay. Well, after the elections, the class conflict still continues. Many of the mainstream elites and liberal petit bourgeois intellectuals and corrupt politicians trying to say that we have no class, we are a Thai society with harmony and uh, at one as one. But the truth is the class struggle still exists even before the capitalist system. In the past, when we were peasant, we avoid the forced labor by fleeing to the forest, right? Even after the capitalist revolution, the there were also struggles of the workers, students, peasants, such as the 14th October of uh, 19, 1973. or the Black May of 1992, and also the latest struggles of the youth movement in 2020. Even after the COVID pandemic, people came out to protest the government by demanding both political and economic demand. But still, the Thai labor movement is still weak, and doing so could not support the student movement during the last few years. Again, the Pheu Thai party that had formed the government has not shown any signs of reducing inequality of society, in society, while the majority of people are trying to demand for welfare state, no matter what form they understand. But the Pheu Thai already has given up to the regime dictatorship. They neglect taxing the rich or create a real or demand a real welfare state. And also they're trying to cut the social security, such as the handout for the unemployed. And the neoliberal policy, such as they're trying to build trying to expand the railways inside the Bangkok, but they said that it had to be done by the private sectors only. And even Pheu Thai was a party that had won the hearts of the Richards party, but justice was never brought to bear. Such as the Richards massacre in 2016, the students massacre on the 6th October of 1976, or the Black May, the workers massacre in 1996. Okay, so what our organization needs to do in this time? How do we achieve success or maybe build a strong revolutionary socialist organization? I will get it very quickly. Right? So first, we must have had a courage to show our ideology, our class politics, and enable to analyze any errors in the Stalinism lines. Because in Thailand, the Stalinism has high influences in the mainstream of the left party. Many people in the left thought that Marxism is a Stalinism, but it's not the same. Maybe you can ask this. And also, we must dare to distinguish others' ideas, even though those ideas were not recognized by the one who hold that ideas. And also try to get our members to join study group, training, practicing in arguing and analyzing the society within the Marxist approach, and to be able to argue directly with the mass. Second, this clarity of theory and class politics is not no use if we do not get down to the mass. We must be able to develop leadership within our organization and compete for leadership within the struggle for democracy. Because our organization is not just discussion organization, we are trying to build a party for the revolution. The concrete way is to find opportunity to join the union struggles or any young people activists. And finally, to be able to evaluate the reality, the situation that changed throughout the time, we must be able to accept any defeat, be able to learn any weaknesses and lessons from the past, so that we can to create a concrete plan to win, even how high or low the demands. Okay. In the meantime, right now, we are trying to establish local branches, especially in the urban area, in the communities, such as near the universities, Chulalongkorn, Kasetsart, and Ramkhamhaeng, which is the university that had a history of the struggle, and trying to campaign for the release of political prisoners, welfare state, and trying to help the comrades from other provinces to organize their local branches. We believe that the new society is possible, but the capitalism does not collapse by itself, and the consciousness of the mass does not rise automatically. What we need to do is someone or the party to come down and go to the mass and try to build the power from below. But the kind of small good news is that recently there will be increasing worker struggle to gain for a pay rise, bonuses, which reflect that after the COVID, the economy is gradually little rise because there were more and more economic activity. But it also shows that even the economy has recovered, the capitalists will not share their gains. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for a very interesting and good sharing about the Chinese situation. And I just want to wrap up a bit like what he's saying about. I think despite the military regimes in the Thai problems, also and already behind that is the capitalists that control all the system. It's more or less same with everywhere and here also. And also and you'll finalize that the important is like how to continue fighting for the democracy and so the workers' right by using the Marxism ideology, and how to rebuild or strengthen the internal organization for the to expand the movement. So now I would like to invite our another comrade Jai Umpakon. Jai Umpakon to give his sharing about the time democracy crisis. Okay. Welcome, Umpakon.
Thank you very much for inviting me. The topic I want to talk about is how mass struggle has been subordinated to a fixed parliamentary election, fixed by the military junta, as the previous speakers mentioned. After the main 2023 elections, former opposition Pheu Thai Party, Thaksin's party, became the mouthpiece of the military junta. I want to raise 4 questions. How did this happen? And in the 3 years since the 2020 youth-led mass protests against the military dictatorship, a total of 262 activists have been charged with lèse-majesty by the military. That's the law that puts people in prison for supposedly insulting the king. How is this related to the above transformation of Pheu Thai? What does the use of lèse-majesty tell us about Thai society? And finally, my final question is, how did mass struggle become subordinated to bogus parliamentary elections? I'll just go over a bit of background. I know the previous speaker has covered some of this, but from 2006, when there was a military coup against the Thaksin's elected government, up to today, there's been a long-lasting elite struggle between Thaksin and his Thaksin and his politicians and the conservatives and the military. The real issue was that Thaksin's party's popularity with the electorate due to the pro-poor policies designed to modernize the economy. It temporarily ended the feeding trough of politics, the old way of doing politics in Thailand, where the elite politicians shared the spoils of office, and where political parties had no policies. Thaksin's Thai Rak Thai party, which was overthrown by the military, actually delivered on a number of policies, as the previous speaker has mentioned. However, this crisis was not just an elite conflict. It was a parallel conflict, because while there's a conflict above, workers and peasants also mobilized from below against the conservatives and the military in the form of the red shirts. The middle classes supported the military coup, which only goes to show that the middle classes are not the bastion of democracy. Now, after the coup of 2006, each time elections were held by the military in order to reduce tensions, citizens voted en masse for Thaksin's party. And the party was repeatedly attacked by the courts and had to change its name a couple of times. The same things actually happened to move forward. The courts, of course, appointed by the military and the conservatives. The fact that each time Thaksin's party won the election meant that General Bayut staged the latest coup in 2014, and he and his allies decided to fix the elections and the constitution, as the previous speaker has said. This was to ensure that Thaksin's party and parties opposed to the military couldn't actually win an election. At the same time, a youth-led movement arose which protested against the military junta. And many people in this movement did not identify closely with Thaksin's policies, unlike the red shirts. At its peak, the youth-led movement reached 100,000 people mobilized on the street of Bangkok. The youth-led movement eventually petered out for three reasons. Firstly, there was the refusal to turn to the working class, to build in the working class. This is something that many activists have inherited, both from the Maoist Communist Party, but also from the NGO movement that followed. The second reason why the youth-led movement eventually petered out was a lack of coherent leadership due to misplaced autonomist ideas. They pretended that they had no leaders, when in fact, of course, they did. You can't have a movement with no leaders. The problem is that when you pretend that there are no leaders in an autonomous manner, you don't build structures with internal democracy. So there was very little debate about the strategy and tactics of the movement. The low point of the movement was when they thought they could increase their power by holding rubber ducks on the streets. Now, the third reason why the youth movement petered out was a lack of input from activist political parties. At the moment, there really is only one activist political party, and that's the Socialist Worker Thailand movement. Because all the other parties look towards parliamentary means. In fact, it's very difficult to explain to people why you should build a party and then not immediately stand for parliament. The pull of parliamentary parties is very strong. Some of our ex-members in SWT have joined the Move Forward Party. One of my old students from Chulalongkorn University, now a lecturer himself, believed that the forerunner of the Move Forward Party would set up a welfare state. He was proved to be wrong. So there's this huge pull towards parliamentarianism. Now, when the youth movement collapsed, the junta took advantage of this to use lèse-majesté against many of the leaders. And as I've said, many of them were put in jail. Some of them are still waiting trial. The Move Forward Party, which I've mentioned, if you look at Wikipedia, it incorrectly calls it a social democratic, left-wing, populist and progressive political party. This is nonsense. In fact, it's a neoliberal business party with a handful of mildly progressive intellectuals like Piyabut Sanganokun as decoration. Piyabut was hoping that the Move Forward Party would move beyond the left and the right. This is something he borrowed from Podemos in the Spanish state. And of course, we know what happened to Podemos. Eventually, moving beyond left and right meant coalition with the reformists and the neoliberals. Now, as the previous speaker has mentioned, the Move Forward Party won the most votes in the May general election. It didn't win a majority, it just won the most votes. But it was blocked from heading a coalition government by the military-appointed Senate. Thaksin and Pheu Thai Party then did a dirty deal with the military conservatives in order to be able to form a government. And Pheu Thai are now head of a coalition government, including all the right-wing pro-junta parties and the military parties themselves. The dirty deal allowed Thaksin back to supposedly face charges. In fact, Thaksin came back, spent a few hours in prison, and then was transferred to a luxury hospital room. He is now basically under house arrest in a luxury hotel, a hospital room, with the promise of an amnesty by the end of the year. I want to discuss the use of lèse-majesté in the role of King Vajiralongkorn, because the youth movement had many illusions about this. It is nonsense to describe Thai society as having feudal characteristics. It's nonsense to say that the idiot King Vajiralongkorn is an absolute monarch. I call him an idiot king because he finds it difficult to string sentences together. When I was still in Thailand, a number of diplomats complained when they had to have dinner with him, as it was almost impossible to have an intellectual conversation with him, and he used to allow his dog to run up and down on the table, licking the plates of the guests. Now, the idea that Vajiralongkorn is somehow an absolute monarch is the legacy of Stalinist Maoist ideology from the Communist Party of Thailand, a distorted form of Marxism. This ideology uses the stages theory as an excuse to delay the struggle for socialism. So the Communist Party claimed that Thailand was semi-feudal, semi-colonial, and therefore the struggle had to be a nationalist struggle where progressives would build cross-class alliances with progressive capitalists. Now you can see there's a version of this among the youth leaders who look towards the Move Forward Party, a capitalist party, supposedly progressive. So Thailand is a fully capitalist economy and society. Thai feudalism, the Sakdina system, was destroyed by King Rama V, Chulalongkorn, in the 1870s in a bourgeois revolution from above, very similar to the Meiji Restoration in Japan at the same time. It created a centralized nation state, which was not the same as the Sakdina system of devolved power, and it ended the Sakdina system of forced labor and created a peasantry so that Thailand could export rice to the world market. It freed up indigenous wage labor to reduce the cost of wage labor that was very high at the time. This absolute monarchy created by King Rama V only lasted 60 years until the 1932 revolution was staged against Rama VII. So after that, the leaders, the military and civilian leaders of Thailand were very anti-monarchy for a while. But in the 1950s, under the influence of the Cold War and with the support of the USA, the junta, then headed by Field Marshal Sarit Thanarat, rehabilitated the monarchy as a symbol and holy figurehead associated with military dictatorships and later business elites. The US helped to provide mass numbers of photographs of the king, which were given to villagers and so on in this huge propaganda attempt to rehabilitate the king. Anyone who didn't accept the picture was regarded as a communist. Now, the basic role of the monarchy in Thailand is not very different from the role of the monarchies in Europe. It is to socialize the population to support the capitalist national interest. The monarchy is weak without power. Bhumibol Vajiralongkorn's father and Vajiralongkorn himself both owe their positions to the military and the capitalist class. Bhumibol wasn't an idiot. He didn't behave in the same way that Vajiralongkorn behaved. He was more aware of the need to be a statesman, but nevertheless, his speeches were rambling and confused, but they were praised as holy texts by the media and by the elites. Vajiralongkorn is an odious, self-absorbed playboy, not interested in politics, but he is interested in his position as king because it brings in lots and lots of money. He prefers to spend his life in Germany with his harem. So the Thai ruling class created and still use the monarchy as a semi-god to legitimize themselves and to protect themselves. Anyone criticizing the ruling class, the military governments, and so on, is deemed to be criticizing the monarchy. The youth movement also came out to criticize the monarchy because they believed that he was pulling the string. They believed incorrectly that he was pulling the strings behind the military regime. The apparent power of the monarchy, because he's promoted as this holy thing, is only possible because of what Marx called alienation. In other words, fear, lack of confidence among ordinary people means that the military and the conservative ideas about monarchy are easily absorbed. But when people fight back, that changes, and we saw that with the youth movement. Now, the Thai situation is not unique. When mass movements overthrow dictatorships, big questions arise. What next? Now, the Thai movement didn't actually manage to overthrow the dictatorship, but I think that the process is very similar. If you look at Egypt during the Arab Spring, you can see that after the dictatorship was overthrown, there was a move towards supporting the Muslim Brotherhood political party in parliament. Those who didn't like the Muslim Brotherhood, the secular nationalists, joined hands with the military. There seemed to be only two choices. And this is because the Revolutionary Socialist Party in Egypt, which does exist, was too small. In Sudan, the situation is slightly better, with revolutionary committees being formed in different locations, and people and the working class being more involved in the current revolution, which hasn't finished. In Russia in 1917, there was a political party with its roots in the working class, the Bolshevik Party. And that meant that when the dictatorship was overthrown in the February revolution, the Bolshevik Party could agitate to push forward for the socialist revolution a few months later. And this is what we call the permanent revolution, the idea that in today's world, capitalism is so entrenched throughout the world in different forms, in different levels, at different levels, and so on, that the working class can lead socialist revolution. We need to learn the lessons from the fact that the mass struggle was subordinated to false parliamentary elections. And to do that, we need to argue for the importance of mass movements and for embedding yourself among the working class. And at the same time, it's not enough to just have a mass movement, but we need to build the Revolutionary Socialist Party. Thank you.
Here for the very clear, I would say the map about the development of the pan democracy movement from the past until now, and also like mentioned about the youth movement is I think it's quite an important point, like to a movement when they are brave to criticize the monarchy system or to do the reform for the time political system related with the monarchy. And also you will say about the mass movement to bring the change for the society. So I think now is the Q&A session, and I think everyone, you have any comment or question you can ask, but just cut it short and simplify it. Okay, maybe we can open for 3 questions first. Yeah, can raise your hand to if you want to ask question. Oh, question.
Yeah, Chody from the Philippines. Yeah, you have pointed out the role of the Revolutionary Socialist Party. In that case, what would you think would be the ways forward? The ways forward thing, meaning how would you pursue the task of the Revolutionary Socialist Party?
Do you want me to answer now or answer at the end with a number of questions being put?
Yeah, we'll collect the question first, and then you just answer. Yeah.
I'd like to know about the role of Buddhism, because it's a very deeply Buddhist nation. As the speaker from online, he said how the Egypt experienced the Arab uprising and all that. They reverted to Islam for their power agenda. How much of Thailand is of the Buddhism is involved in politics? As much as I know, in Myanmar, the Buddhist monks helped in the struggle against the military junta. They have their own uprising, and I like to know how much, because if Buddhism gets involved, how do they view the? I don't think Buddhism actually agrees with the monarchy itself, because they don't have monarchy as such. But I don't know the version of Buddhism that the Thailand. What is the more prevalent kind of Buddhism? Because I'm more familiar with Theravada. I think it's Mahayana.
Yeah.
Mahayana Buddhism.
Theravada.
So they're Theravada. If Theravada, they don't agree with monarchy, I think. Or are they upholding the monarchy themselves? And how can the left work with Buddhism in such that, like in Malaysia, we want to work with Islam. And if you can work with Buddhism, because Buddhism itself is very left in their own spirituality, I think you can have a hand in Buddhism to go forward in the left agenda.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? No? Okay, maybe you all can answer for the first two questions. So far.
I'm not
You
sure
want me to
whether
answer?
I'm so far from PSM. I'm not sure whether this is a question, but maybe this is some thought that I have. Because in the first session, when we have a session with Muda, just give a context for everyone, because Muda have recently announced that they are going to have some sort of a coalition. I don't know. It's a cooperation with the Move Forward Party. And today we hear Conrad's perspective on Move Forward Party is a capitalist party. That is something. So what I think when we are in the middle of like very much I mean when we didn't able to see a lot of progress in our democratic movement. So a new party or young party actually rise up as a is appeals as a hope, or people have hope on that. So and is that actually also give some space for some transitional program? And how do you see it in the context of permanent revolution? Yeah, that's my question.
All right, thank you, Sohwa. So before I close the first section, any question before we open before our panelists give their answer? Aaron.
Hello. Just would like to know the views of both speakers on the self-determination of Patan. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, anything? Okay, so I just like wrap up first is the task of the Socialist Revolution Party. What is the task? Right, from the Conrad from Philippines. And the second is the role of the Buddhisms in politics and how they the possibility like maybe work with the left. And third one is like even though it's a capitalist new party, but it's not in line with the revolutionary process, but either there are some effect of bringing the change in the society. And the fourth one is the self-determination of Patani, the South Thailand issue. You want to answer or maybe Umpako, you want to answer first? Umpako, you want to answer first the question?
You want me to answer?
Umpako, you want to answer first the question?
Okay. In terms of the task of the Revolutionary Party, I think in the present period, the role is twofold. One is to build a bridge between different campaigns. So the Revolutionary Party has to be involved in all sorts of movements, social movements, and so on, to actually explain that all the problems that arise come from capitalism, and to link these campaigns in order to increase solidarity. And this, of course, means building the party, as the comrade from Thailand has explained. And so there are many tasks that need to take place, and the movement that is most important for a revolutionary party is the working class. So members of the Revolutionary Socialist Party, when they go out to work, need to be in trade unions, they need to be part of the movement, and so on. Now, the question of Buddhism. Well, Marx, in his critique of Feuerbach, said that religion is what people practice, and it's not what's in the texts. So I think it would be a mistake to say that Buddhism is this and Islam is that, and so on. It depends on how people use it. In the case of Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood was elected to power after the overthrow of Mubarak because it had been in opposition and it was a dominant opposition party. It wasn't primarily because it was Muslim. And I don't think that it's true to say that Thailand is deeply Buddhist one way or the other. A lot of Buddhism in Thailand is mixed with Hinduism or with the belief in spirits and so on. And many young people aren't religious. But in terms of the Buddhist establishment in Thailand, the Sarit dictatorship in the 1950s co-opted the establishment, neutered it, and made sure that the Buddhist establishment was conservative, pro-monarchy, and so on. And this is why you don't see Buddhist monks protesting against the military dictatorship like you did in Burma, Myanmar. In terms of a transitional program, I think it's really outdated to talk about Trotsky's permanent transitional program. But of course, revolutionary socialists have to be the best fighters for reform. And so it's necessary to fight for a welfare state, for women's rights, for abortion rights, for rights of LGBT plus, rights of people of different ethnicities, and we need to campaign to abolish the idea that people coming into Thailand, escaping all sorts of horrors like in Bangladesh and Myanmar, should somehow be locked up. So we have to campaign for the rights of refugees and so on. In terms of the elections, I don't think for one second that the Revolutionary Party should ally itself with a neoliberal party of business like the Move Forward Party. If Revolutionary Party is big enough to stand its own candidates, one or two candidates, then we should take Lenin's position on elections, and that is that we take part in them in order to make propaganda, or we don't take part in them with illusions that parliamentary elections will bring about real change. Of course, having parliamentary elections and bourgeois democracy is much better than having a dictatorship, and therefore we join with those fighting against the dictatorship. And finally, in terms of Patani, the Revolutionary Socialist Party has to position itself in support of self-determination. And that can include breaking away from the Thai state. We are not in the business of protecting the Thai state, which is a repressive state controlled by the capitalist class. And our organization, which I helped to found, produce pamphlets calling for the self-determination of Patani and why the real problem lies with the Thai state. The Thai state so far has leaned towards a military solution. That is repression. What we want to see is mass movements in Patani. We want to see civilian discussions about how people want to live and so on. Thanks.
Thank you, Comrade Ongkapon. And maybe I pass the mic to Warayu for explain.
Okay, I think Comrade Jai has already explained that. Invite us to think and use our mental capacity Okay, but I will add a little about the okay, well, Patani struggle and Buddhism as a tool for control and to uh, fight against oppression. I might become a walking textbook, maybe. But as socialists and Marxists, we we try to understand that the religion is at first was the protest against the objective suffering, just like the Christianity start from trying to protest against the Roman uh, Empire, or the Buddhists come from the discontent in the Brahman and the ruling Brahman class. But we understand also that religion is a matter of the individual freedom to uh, doing their religious ritual. But we trying to fight against the state that use the religion to control or to trying to uh, like trying to oppress other peoples that have their, I mean, individual interpretation of the religion, such as in Thailand, Thera Samakom or the Buddhist institution was like has a monopoly on Buddhist practices, and especially before Mahathera Samakom, there were many uh, ways of practicing Buddhism, and even in the 14 after 14 October 1973, there were Buddhist monks movement that called for the abolishment Thera Samakom because of their top-down organization and trying to democratize the religion and to be free themselves from the state. Okay, and okay, for the Patani struggle, same as our organization demand for the self-determination. What is not that self-determination without democracy, right? We call for a democratic regime in the area of Patani to allow Buddhist, Christian, Muslim to consolidate and talk and debate on how to live with one another. Now there was like a stereotype from the Thai mainstream that different religion cannot coexist each other. But if you look in the past, the Jew, the Muslim, the Christian, Jerusalem has been living together for like 1,100 years. But it had been used, especially Judaism, to cause like Judaism was used by the Western imperialism to destroy the national movement in the Arab nations and to create more confusion, right? Like recently, for example, the Torah Orthodox Jew have come out to demonstrate to protest against the Israeli oppression on Palestinians and call for the democratic secular state within the Palestine for the Jew, the Christian, the Muslim, and other religions to live together peacefully without their belief being used for oppression. So for the thought from comrade from PSM, right? The recent Move Forward Party, right? I mean, their party or businesses and what we call a liberal progressive party. Can the party be the same party be a space for traditional programs, right? But I will add back a little from Comrade Jai. The transitional programs from Trotsky was written and theorized during after his exile and trying to fight against fascism. But why he? But why? But the reason he wrote the transitional programs because if, like Rosa Luxemburg said, we have to socialists have to support reform too. Because if we do not try to campaign for reform or build the allies, such as the unemployed or in Marxist term, lumpen proletariat, right? Someone who angry and discontent with the current economic, political, social situation and trying to find some scapegoat, right? Like in Malaysia, when there was economic crisis, they blame Muslim, blame on Indian, blame on Malay, right? They come to zero jobs, right? But actually, uh, it's a class struggle, right? Class conflict. So that okay. In case of Thailand, it gave hopes for the students movement to be more active on political movement and struggle. But in our party, we also trying to argue that we must also have no illusion that the party itself was born out of capitalist market. Such as Thanathorn, who is Michael Jackson, but he was one of the owner of his family's company. But it is not because he's a bad person or good person, but because he's pressured by his own class status. If he go and support his company's junior, right, he might get like other shareholders who kick him out of the company. So he has to, he has history of trying to bust the union within his company. So it's not a matter of the good or bad, but his class status. But our organization also not let this opportunity go. We also trying to write and promote people to come out and vote, to be able to, for people to see how the parliamentary and the constitution that written by Thai elite works, or how the senators has a according to constitution has a real power to the majority, right? So we trying to be not being illusional, but we trying to use this opportunity to promote for political activity from the mass. And I think the last one is maybe okay. I will get the way forward for Revolution Party or the task for Revolution Party. I will try to summarize that. Like Corporate I said, we don't ignore the reforms, right? The revolutionary knows best which what power they could implement or pressure the state to implement the reform. But we also learned that during this struggle for the reform, the mass movement workers, peasants know that what is the structure of the state, how much power or where do they have power to change the structure, right? It's a learning process, and it's not like we only give lecture or I give you knowledge. No, we have to join the struggle. We have to invite them to a discussion to include them to dialectical thinking, right? We cannot think alone. We have to think with the mass.
Congrats, what are you? I think is anyone like you want to before you cannot sleep tonight. If you want to, the one if you want to, you cannot ask any question. Zikri, right? One. Okay. To only two, yeah. Please cut it short and we can finish it earlier, maybe.
Right. Hello. Thank you so much for the presentation for both panels. So basically, I would love to understand the situation a little bit better because you did mention on how, of course, like one of the main forces of Thai politics is basically the divide between rural and urban area. So we also observe on how like maybe for the past 20 years, the presence of the red shirt and the yellow shirt protest, for example, it does shows that particular forces. But then again, do you see like such forces continue to actually shape Thai politics? One thing, and then did you actually observe there's a different side of mobilization? Because, for example, maybe in the 70s or the 80s, it's always like maybe in the Eastern area where people actually mobilize, like to go to and try to actually re-envision different forms of politics in Thailand. But then did you actually see such sites of mobilization actually, transpire within Thai contemporary politics situation right now? Thank you.
Friends. Yeah. We can-
Oh, sorry. Very good. Okay, so I'm not very familiar with Thai politics, but there is one thing two things I've been wondering actually. Is Thailand under a lot of privatization in terms of healthcare, education, and other things that are usually private services? Sorry, things that are usually public services. Because I think earlier one of you mentioned that Thailand people, the workers especially, want the welfare state. So I'm guessing most of the things have been privatized or are slowly being privatized. Then my second question is Thailand under a military junta? And if so, how does the military junta view the prospects of international capitalist or financial models? Because I feel like dictatorships usually would not, or military dictatorships would not usually be so like open to the ideas of taking debt from other, IMF or WTO, because in a way they want to provide for their own capitalist institutions, whether it's own companies that they are in loans to or whatever corrupt business they're up to. So I'm just curious, what is the relationship? Are they closer to local capitalists or like foreign capitalists, or they just take whoever gives them money? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And anyone want to answer the two questions?
Okay, what are you? Oh, they have that. Hello, okay. Maybe Comrade Jai will add uh, the telephone. Maybe. Okay, Comrade has asked about research and yellow church movement, right, that have shaped the Thai politics. Yeah, but it is also how our organization view the struggle, right? We are trying to analyze in various various sides. The yellow shirt was not in mainstream media. It was portrayed as the middle class movement, elite movement, but okay, eventually it was co-opted by the capitalist elites. But first yellow shirts was born out of the privatization in Thaksin government, but the unions within the public sectors, such as railways, water, uh, electricity, trying to struggle against this privatization, but they were not always radical. In Thai, there were one unionist who worked with the secret police after the fall of the Communist Party of Thailand, named Pasir Samsuthor. He worked with the secret police and trying to create and build a political identity that trying to gain some class leadership for the workers, but also trying to blur the political lines. For example, they might, and they're really influential within the public sector, such as the railways. The leaders of the railway, he was also like student from the research. He said that we must protect the railway, right, from the privatization, not because it will like worsen the just public services or worsen the working condition, but it is the uh, inheritance from our king Rama V, something like this, right? So they trying to fight against the privatization during the Thaksin government, but they fight this not just because they try to protect their workplace, but also trying to implement their kind of a nationalist ideology. But yeah, that doesn't mean that the yellow shirt has origin from the class conflict. But then again, the NGOs at that time, the activists, mostly anarchists and Maoists, have already lost their trust in the mass. So they try to, so they were easily were co-opted by Sotin Pangkun, who was the owner of a conservative media, and but it also led to a red shirt. Red shirt is also origin from a class conflict, especially small farmers and a section of workers. Because before Thaksin won the election, he had a campaign and going all over the country to talk with the rural poor, the small farmers, medium farmers, and the Thai Party got the pressure also from the people that you presented up with these policies that were beneficial to the poor, you must implement it, right? And he did so. But when they were coup, you see that the red shirts saw that their material interest was threatened, was going to be destroyed. That's why they come out like thousands, maybe 100,000 into the cities. And yeah, it really shaped the Thai politics in a sense that the latest movement, especially student movements, learned that the grassroots, the ordinary people, is not innate or say ignorant, but they were struggle all the time. But then again, they lack the political organization of their own. Richards believed in the leadership from the Thai Party. Richards was co-opted by the conservatives. And the last one, the other one. The question is that why Thai military is open for international trade, right? Okay. Okay, so well, I mean, shortly after the coup, each time there were like a loose of confidence in Thai government each time, right? But what the reason that the military dictatorship did not get affected that much because originally after the Sali dictatorship there was monopoly by the local bourgeoisie, local capitalists, such as the railways, communication industries that join hand in hand with the military. If you look back to the Soviet, usually it has only one duty: to crush the workers and the peasants, right? And then there were like development in suppression, such as like as Comrade Chai said, using the conservative institution to blur the class conflict. And recently, Thai military dictatorship also accepted the relationship from China, and sometimes USA, especially the military leadership, they also have open relationship with each other all the time. Okay.
Thank you. What are you? Is Comrade Jai Umpakon in there? Do you have anything to answer, and maybe you can do your final remark after that?
Yeah, I think that the rural-urban divide has been exaggerated. Today, most Thai people live in urban situations, towns, big towns, small towns, and so on. And there are many. I think it's true to say that most ordinary working people are more working class. The peasantry is on the decline, and it certainly doesn't. People who work in agriculture are either wage labourers or they're very poor because of the productivity. There are political myths about villagers being stupid and being prepared to sell their votes and not really interested in in politics, and I think this was exploded by a number of surveys, but also by the rise of the red shirts, who weren't just puppets of Thaksin's politicians and so on, but actually organized themselves. In terms of the yellow shirts, a lot of yellow shirts were middle class because they were fearful of losing their privileges with the rise in influence of poor people. And you can see this in some of the demonstrations where they hold up signs saying the poor red shirts are stupid and so on. As far as the working class is concerned, then we have to understand that the trade unions are split between the top leaders and the ordinary rank and file workers. Now, some of the top trade union leaders supported the yellow shirts, but it doesn't mean that rank and file workers in electricity or on the railways supported the yellow shirts. And they stood to benefit in some ways from Thaksin's policies, especially the healthcare policies, because it meant that their relatives who were still in villages and so on, some of them anyway, would have free healthcare, and they wouldn't have to support their relatives. The state enterprise union leaders were the most prominent in the yellow shirt movement, and they have had a tradition, they probably still have, of not really encouraging class struggle and strikes, but of trying to solve problems by cozying up to management. And people like Somsak Gosaisuk are a good example of this. He ended up being with the yellow shirts because he thought that the yellow shirts were powerful. He has a history of being very opportunist. And so it's a complicated picture. Finally, in terms of the military dictatorship versus Thaksin. Now, Thaksin, I think it's true to say that Thaksin's governments used a parallel economic policy. On the one hand, they used grassroots Keynesianism, trying to stimulate the economy by pumping money into villages and so on, and developing poor people to be part of the economy, and that's state-led. But at the same time, they were neoliberals, so there's a parallel economic policy there. Now, it's interesting that if you look back at the leaders of the 2006 military coup and the governments that followed, the military coup leaders and the military governments were much more neoliberal than Thaksin. They condemn the use of the state to support the poor. So again, it's a complicated issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Comrade Jai and Mario. Our final remark.
Okay, no remarks. So I'm glad that I have presented the situation of the struggle for democracy in Thailand. Yes, we can see that it's not easy. It's full of obstacles and ups and downs of the struggle. But I mean, we comrades as a revolutionary socialist, we know that in order to, I mean, whether the struggle is decline or rise up, we have to always building confidence within the party and the people. But it's also not easy because we all grew up born out of a oppression from capitalism, right? We often lack self confidence. We always trying to borrow the ideas of the ruling class, or trying to work out within the current structure. But again, I cannot teach you because I'm not teacher or to build the power of people that we cannot teach anybody. I write as the socialists in Brazil, Paulo Freire, said that in order for the oppressed to learn, we must struggle at the same time, but nobody can learn for them. They must learn themselves and learn with us, with the party, with the movement. And also we must accept that within our society, a society of class, there were full of full of intimidation, full of lack of self-confidence, lack of self-meaning, and we will occasionally, normally we would trying to obtain our competence over others, bad sides, right? But okay. My final remark is that, I mean, according to Lenin, right, to build a party of the revolutionary is that we must accept that the real power or the state does not mean parliament or government or any kind of form of a structure that was formed by the ruling class. But this I cannot answer. We must learn together. And within the party, we must have a genuine democratic centralism. This is different from the version of the Communist Party of Thailand or the Stalinist distortion. The democratic centralism is a principle, not the main tool for revolution. It's a principle to build a regional party. I can give you a short summarization. Is that the democratic centralism is that every member of the party have the freedom to debate, fully debate, freedom. But at the end, when you vote to do something, to take a stand in some issues, if the majority decide that, the minority must follow. But if there was, if the minority saw that during this, after the majority has decided there was a problem, you can call for a maybe meeting to reconsider, right? That's why we social workers has a routinely central meeting, right, once a month to review that what is our activities going, how can we change our way we work, and also the importance of democratic centralism is that, as you can see in Thailand, we do not have political organization of our own. We tend to do as one's desire, like you do this, you do that, you will not intervene each other. What that causes is that nobody learns any lessons. There is no process of mutual learning, right? And finally, in my view, that I'm glad to be here and to share thoughts and lessons with the PSM. And we hope that in the future we will meet again and maybe create a network of a socialist in Southeast Asia. Okay, I will leave a short message from Karl Marx. Philosopher only duty is to interpret the world, but the truth is you have to change the world. Why? If you want to know the world without trying to change it, you always trapped within the ruling ideas. So in order to know the world, to truly know the core of it, you have to learn how to change, right? That's why Lenin wrote State Evolution, State Revolution. That's why Gramsci wrote about the organic intellectuals and labor democracy, or how to work with the movement. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Comrade Warunyu, for his very sincere comments and review. And before I end the pass mic to the MC, I also feel like becoming a leftist is not any easier. But because of the socialism that bring us together and to continue to fight for a just and people movement in future. So thank you for our Comrade Jai from in UK and also Warunyu from Thai.